We are live. Carlos, we are
Yes.
live. Good morning, everybody. You are watching Stand Up Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. I'm Margot Pies, your co host. I'm a scientist, engineer, and occasional journalist. And over here, on one side of me, is Carlos Marroquin. He is an amazing, wonderful, incredible, highly versatile, and all around great guy and amazing community grassroots organizer. And Carlos, what's your title now with the AIDS World AIDS Health Foundation?
The AIDS Healthcare Foundation. I'm the national director for their food and health programs.
So he's
So
got a fancy title now. He's the national director, and he's here today with us, obviously, as your co-host on this show. So Carlos, it's
I'm,
almost
you say
what?
must say this that I am not speaking in behalf of the AIDS.
Ah, yes.
My views are personal views. I have nothing to do with my job, but I am their national director. So I needed to make that clear.
Yeah, his opinions are his own. They do not reflect the organization that he works for. Obviously, I am just a solo person, so my opinions don't reflect anybody but myself anyway. And yeah, let's get started. Carlos, there's a lot to talk about. It's Christmas, almost Christmas next week. Next week on Saturday, and then the following weekend is New Year's. We're entering another year of the pandemic, 2022. It's not over yet. We've got this new virus that's shaking up the world right now, and I'm not sure exactly how dangerous it is yet, but taking precautions as best as we can. But there's been a lot of talk about crime recently, crime waves, the smash and grab robberies that have been in the news. And there's been a little bit of controversy over that. I know AOC got a little bit of heat in, at least in Fox News publications. They were kind of going after her for some of her comments. And I think there's been a little bit more research done on that. And it seems that we have some statistics that suggest that she may not be wrong in her claims. Aside from that, Joe Manchin tanking Build Back Better, the reconciliation bill that was supposed to be the people's bill, the legislation that was going to help people. We're going to talk about that, talk about how that affects our struggle with climate change and how that affects people in the middle of the pandemic, this terrible K recovery economy, and also the fact that Joe Biden refuses to cancel student loan debt, which is a promise that he made on the campaign trail. So we've got a ton to talk about, as well as things going on at the local level and plans for the new year. So, Carlos, where would
Well,
you like to start?
good morning, everybody, wherever you may be watching us from. It is a sunny day here in Southern California. A gorgeous day. Nice to be out. Going out with a family, whatever you like to do. If you're in the LA area, there's the Hollywood Farmers Market that is pretty big and well known. A lot of small businesses promote through there. And then there's the Melrose, also farmers market type, which is right at the corner of Melrose and Fairfax. It's actually, you will find a lot of clothing, a lot of artists. They sell their items right there. It's a beautiful place. It's right at the high school, at Fairfax High School. So we encourage you, if you haven't not been there, you will be blown away. The last time I went over there to go visit a friend to go support her small business, I came out in there, buying a couple items because you just cannot help yourself. They have so many great artists out there selling their goodies, and you need to go see it for yourself. It's right at the corner of Fairfax and Melrose, in right at the border of Los Angeles and West Hollywood, Hollywood and West Hollywood area. Again, right at Fairfax High School. Great place to go spend some time and do some shopping there for the holidays. But Look, Margaret, it is tough times. Things have not changed. There are crimes taking place. Actually, right next to my house, there was a robbery made. Well, people went into the house and actually broke in, and the way they did it is, my understanding is that UPS made a delivery. No one answered the door. And as soon as UPS left, since no one came out to pick up the boxes, they knew somebody was not home. That's how they broke into the house. They went through the back. They opened one of the windows were open, and they went and stole some things from there. So look, let's use our common sense, everybody. Close your windows when you leave. And I know it's tough right now. People are hurting out there, and there's people that take advantage of situations like anything else. So right now, what we are seeing throughout uh, California, different parts of California, and some other states, is those people taking advantage of the situation, and they organizing in mass numbers. Some of them through some of these robberies that have been taking place at some exclusive stores have been done, according to one of the articles that I read, was through social media. They organized through social media, through Facebook. And but look, obviously there are people that is going to take advantage of that, and obviously there's going to be other people that are going to take advantage of that, and that is members of the media, politicians, that would use this kind of events, or this kind of actions or robberies or whatever you want to call it, crimes, to push their agenda for more policing. For you know calling out the governor because it's his fault that he has released a lot of low time crime criminals to the public, and now all of a sudden, because it becomes his fault. These are the kind of rhetoric that you're going to hear, and they're going to use it. But the fact of the matter is that you know robberies have been taking place all along. There being theft, of stores, and you know uh, all kinds of things. The only difference here is that this is being organized by a large group of people, and they're hitting the places at the same time. But nothing has changed. Actually, Market, you say there are some statistics on this. Maybe you want to mention a few of them.
Yeah, so obviously crime dropped during the first year of the pandemic when we had a lot of quote unquote lockdowns. People were staying home, that shelter in place orders, businesses were closed. So even your general run of the mill robber was staying at home because they didn't want to get COVID. So obviously there was a decrease between 2019 and 2020, but even so, for example, in 2021, property crime in Los Angeles, even though it was up 2.6% from 2020, it was actually down 6.6% from 2019. So overall, even though we've sort of our economy and everybody else has kind of returned to a kind of normalcy, we're not staying at home as much, crime is still down compared to prior to the pandemic. So, and they also said that, this is from the LA Times, they reported that this category included shoplifting, personal/other theft, and per the LAPD, this particular category is down 32% from 2019. So yeah, we have crime. This is normal. But apparently, the crime is not as bad as certain people in the media or politicians would like us to believe, or even police departments would like us to believe, because obviously they want more money and they want a better image than the image they've had in the past several years with the Black Lives Matter movement. So there is certainly a narrative that is being pushed. And one of the narratives that I've heard is that, oh, well, these progressive defund the police policies aren't working. We need to fund the police. And it's amazing to me how quickly politicians, local politicians, and even the governor of California immediately caved to these claims. And they are already talking about, well, we're just gonna give them more money. We're gonna give the police departments more money. Yeah, there are crimes, absolutely, but if the crime rate is not actually going up, then we have to kind of think more systemically about why there are still pockets of crimes in certain areas, and often they're in low-income areas, and we really have to address that at a societal level. So I think that this narrative of these smash and grab robberies is a little distorted. I think AOC probably made a very good point about that, even though she got heat from it in the media. And actually, some of the threads that I've seen in cable news that I've kind of found recently have me a little bit worried. And it's not just this robberies that are happening, but in general, I get the sense that corporate media really wants the Democrats to lose, and not to say that the Democrats aren't doing a very bad job at getting things done and having a chance at staying in power in Congress when it comes to the midterms. But I sense that there's like an incredible negative energy on top of that from the media against the Democrats, and it's a little bit horrifying to see, because there's so much good that could come out of these legislations, but it seems to me that they're propping up certain voices that are just completely against everything that the people in this country need. And so that to me is a little bit concerning, Carlos.
Right. Well, politicians are going to be politicians. We said that before. For example, one of the biggest people that are making noise right now is, I know, and it's noise, let me tell you, because they will use any opportunity to push their agenda. So you have Councilman Vizcaino, which is running for mayor. He's going to jump in this wagon of the thefts and the robberies and make a big thing about it. This is why we need so much police. Although police take the vast majority of the budget for the city of Los Angeles, mind you that. And there are robberies taking place, there's theft, but now interesting that recently there is a billionaire here in Los Angeles. His name is Rick Caruso. He's a developer. It's a huge developer, and he's jumping in this wagon. He's tired of the robberies, he says, according to this article recently published, and he's considering to run for mayor. What a great opportunity he's got to use these talking points. Wow. All along, for decades, developers have been robbing our communities. They've been destroying our communities. So this is the garbage that come out from these people, where they're committing high crimes in our cities. In meantime, yes, there are some stores that are being broken into, including some of his. And this is why he's making all this noise, because he's being hit right now. Louis Vuitton, Nordstrom, high-end stores are the ones that were targeted. And yes, Margaret, there's robberies that take place every single day in a small business. They are never paid attention to. Why? Because they're small businesses. They're owned by pops and moms. And police don't bother to do anything about that. But when the high-end stores get hit, that's a different story. We need to bring more police.
Oh yeah, gotta protect the elites.
Right, bring the army.
Bring out the National Guard. They're coming after our $500 purses. Oh no, it's not safe for the very rich people anymore.
Right. All of a sudden, he's criticizing Proposition 47. Proposition 47, that was a proposition that reduced the sentences of nonviolent crimes. All of a sudden, he's saying, you know, this is the result of us reducing those sentences of non-violent crimes.
Right.
This is why we need tougher laws. We need tougher laws against him, people like him,
Yeah.
against these billionaires, against developers that have destroyed our communities, that have
Yeah.
run people blind.
I'm
That's what
just
they're
look.
doing.
Yeah, I'm just looking up in this Guardian article where they talk about Prop 47, and they interviewed some criminologists. I'm trying to think. It was a professor of criminology, law, and society at the University of California in Irvine, who did a study that found that Prop 47 was not responsible for an uptick in crimes. She noted that there were other states without Prop 42 seeing similar smash and grab cases, and also pointed that it would be difficult to prove that a 2021 trend was the result of a law passed 7 years prior. So, blaming Prop 47 for reducing crimes from a felony to a misdemeanor is pretty far fetched, and seems to me that there's just some people who want to benefit from incarcerating certain groups of people here, and if you reduce the charges from a felony to a misdemeanor, you're reducing prison time. So I feel that there's a little bit of certain interest playing a role here, who really uh, are losing out if these people aren't in jail. So, I really am skeptical, and I agree with you, Carlos, that these business owners, these very rich corporate CEOs, etc., these entrepreneurs they call themselves. I mean, nothing against like actual entrepreneurs, but these guys, these sort of psychopaths who just want power for themselves and as much money for themselves as possible. Like they need to kind of step aside, because this narrative is kind of bogus. So I personally don't buy it. And when the statistics and the stats, the studies are there that say otherwise, I'm not really going to fall into this panic. And I think that it's unfortunate that our media plays these games with us, and they continue to play these games with us, not just over these crime rates, smash and grab, but the pandemic, polarization like that, polarization over politics, over the two parties. I mean, it's a really bad situation when we should be united right now, because we have very, very big issues to be
Right.
dealing with our society. I mean, it's a mess.
Margaret, especially the smash and grab of people's properties all over the city by developers.
Yeah, and also the police, the forced forfeiture, the seizure of property that the police departments do.
Right.
I mean, I think that was one of AOC's points, was like, the cops, they take way more from people than in terms, like total amount, compared to what these thieves have done. And nobody is complaining about that. Instead, they're throwing more money at the cops who also seize other people's properties.
Right.
And
My point here,
there's
Mark,
where's the uproar from Fox News over that, or from these pundits that go on CNN?
and we have to make it clear, because if you look at the conditions, the housing conditions here in the city of Los Angeles alone, you can also look, San Francisco, where some of these, robberies are taking place. The housing conditions brought to us by developers, the form of abuses that they have done. They have literally robbed the people from their properties.
Yeah, and
Out
yeah, and if you
things.
yeah,
We
and if you go ahead.
have the city of the different cities that if you happen to have X amount of tickets, and unfortunately maybe your car was broken, you got a ticket, you happen to park in the wrong place, maybe you didn't have money to put in the meter and you got a ticket, and after several amount of tickets that you have pretty much mounted up, they come and take your car away, they tow your car away, they impound your car, you know and you, of course, you don't have the money to get the car out. They steal your car. That's what they do. They steal your car. You know, and
I've had, I can tell you a personal story all about that.
right,
Where my the building that I live in claimed that my stickers were expired on my car while I was in California for the pandemic. They towed my car, didn't tell me. Luckily, I had the US Postal Service, thank you, mailmen of the world and women, mail women of the world. They have a digital scanning thing where they can scan your mail and you get a notice in your email. So I saw a towing company letter in my mailbox via my email. My car had been at this towing site for like 10 days prior, like the letter got to me like 2 weeks after they had been holding my car. So I had to complain to the building and fight with them to bring my car back. They wanted me to pay these fees for them holding my car when my car had a resident sticker, like I live here, this is my car, belongs to me. I parked it behind the security gate so nothing would happen to it. And the towing company kept my car for a month. When I got it back, $6,000 worth of parts were missing. Where did my parts go?
exactly. Why are they not talking about stuff like this that goes on all the time? You know,
Yeah.
with
And there's laws that protect them. Like there's literally laws. In the letter that I saw, there was a law like, oh, if you don't get your car by this, come pick up your car by this time, we assume that you've abandoned it, blah, blah, blah. It's our car. We're going to sell your parts. It's insane. But they purposely wait like 2 weeks to even notify you that they have your car. So,
and then you had, the street vendors. They're
mm-hmm,
hit by the county of Los Angeles, and they taken their equipment from them, their tables,
mm-hmm,
their little carts that they used to sell, food or different items, and those are confiscated, as they
mm-hmm.
committing a real crime, and a lot of them, I remember I recorded this over at MacArthur Park, where the county of LA, the health department, uh, pulled over the truck and just literally start grabbing some of these street vendors' carts and tossing them into the truck, destroying them. I remember this one lady, she had tears in her eyes, and she was telling me she just had put some brand new wheels on her cart, and all she wanted was the wheels, because that was the most valuable thing. She spent money with those, and they were laughing at her as they were tossing her cart into the truck.
It's disgusting.
You know? We don't, they don't like to talk about these robberies, this smash and grab, you know, uh,
Yeah.
by officials.
And why? Because it's legal.
Right.
There's no law against it, so it's okay.
Well, of course.
So if we could pass a law, that said this, what these people do is okay, then they couldn't say anything, right? I
Well,
guess apparently
they-
laws.
right. They do that contribute to their campaigns, to city
Mhm.
campaigns, to the mayor's campaign. These are the people that finance the politicians. So they pretty much like Congress. So they create laws for themselves that protect the rich and the
Mhm.
ultra rich.
Mhm. Yeah.
Meanwhile, you commit petty thefts, and they're ready to throw the book at you, and all the news are focused on you.
And
But
let's be
huh?
Yeah, and let's be clear. These businesses like Louis Vuitton, H&M, Zara, etc. They just throw out their items that aren't sold. They mass produce, and every week they've got new things. And whatever they don't sell, they just burn it. They cut it up, they throw it in the trash so that nobody else can use it. And that's okay.
But we can
But
also talk about their business practices, of the employees, how they treat their employees, and a lot of them, get their stuff from other countries where they are, pretty much, taking advantage of workers.
mhm.
Let's talk about that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's also important to note that all of this income inequality, all of this legalized theft from working class people, low income people, immigrants who don't have a voice or are terrified to speak up because they don't have papers, right? This then fuels this anger, this feeling of like, I deserve, what you have too. Like I should be able to have what you have. And then that does also fuel thefts, like petty thefts. So there's a whole feedback loop that happens, that if you keep increasing the inequality, people are going to act out over it. So the solution is not necessarily throw more money at police, who obviously don't know how to use the money anyway. They just spend it on more military toys, and on harassing the communities. Like, we should be putting that money into the communities, into supporting the communities. We should be putting it towards educating people on what the real causes are. But obviously the scales are tipped, so that doesn't seem quite likely unless, on the local level, people really start getting involved. But of course, they're being worked 80 hours a week in Kellogg's factories, right? So there's a little bit of problem there. And actually, Carlos, I wanted to segue into that because I have a clip here of the Kellogg CEO. And as people may know or may not know, that the workers, the Kellogg's factories, are on strike, and they've been on strike for quite a while. And here's a clip that let me find it. Yeah, the More Perfect Union organization put together, that highlights the struggle and highlights the psychotic nature of some of these CEOs.
We need you. You're going to run these plants at 24/7 for the foreseeable future.
People are tired. They're exhausted, working 7 days a week as is, nonstop.
The company's not about us. It's all about what they can do and how much money they can make.
Honestly, I think corporate greed has took over, and I don't know how to stop that train. And it is a corporation that has decided to go and compensate their executives and their salaried people, and not trickle that down to its workers that we're in the plant every day during this pandemic.
Our plants have been running 24/7 from day one, operating the plants at 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, breaking production records each and every day.
So, we basically live there.
Our average schedule is for most folks is 8 days a week. So you're going to work 7 days plus a 8-hour overtime day.
Sometimes 16-hour days.
Oh, it's exhausting. People are tired.
We are just a number, and they care about making more. It's never enough for them. All the money that they made during this pandemic, that wasn't enough.
It was definitely a wow factor when you're looking at double-digit growth, high double-digit growth. Our net sales came in much higher than expected. Our penetration is up, our usage is up. So we have been operating at well above 100% capacity on many of our platforms. And so we benefited from the stay at home. There's no question about it. We had a very strong quarter.
I don't understand how you can make that kind of money and make those profits and still have it not be enough for you. But when we say it's not enough for us, you don't care.
Courage or compassion?
Both.
Our human compassion for people is non-existent. It's all about the business.
We're focused on productivity. We'll always look at productivity to see what we can do to offset rising commodity costs, rising costs in general. I'm happy to report that we've managed to increase our production. Cash flow remained strong, and we were able to accelerate share buybacks into the first quarter. Talked about returning cash to share owners in 2021. We're going to do that. We're going to, be back into share buybacks.
They're making us look like we're some sort of greedy monster coming after their profits when they made several $billion just last year.
And they have right now a contract that's expired that has industry-leading wages and benefits. It is an excellent offer.
I think the company is being very greedy. They made a ton of money. They were calling us heroes.
To everyone around the world working so hard to bring breakfast to the table, thank you.
And they're pumping us up.
It is with sincere gratitude and respect extend a heartfelt thank you to our employees for their dedication and hard work, their bravery during such a challenging and turbulent time. Their commitment and dedication has been inspiring, but it has not been surprising. People understood that we were joined up, that we were connected, and that we were indeed standing in solidarity with one another.
Who's ever making these decisions, they don't care about the people.
A word to describe your leadership style.
Shoulder to shoulder.
They're not showing that they care about any of us. Even the people that have been here for years, we're not getting any kind of, not even a thank you.
I talk to our people at all levels as much as I possibly can. And I tell them I get more out of these meetings than you do, because that's what fuels my energy.
I think honestly, the company could have done more for its people that are working every day for them during these times.
We talk about our company having a heart and soul, and we mean it.
They have put profits over people for years now. It's been more and more evident the longer I've been here.
So, yeah, Kelloggs CEO, a psychopath. Obviously, taking workers' hard-earned wages, that's theft. That's wage theft. And I'm hoping that people will join in on the boycott against Kellogg's and support these workers in their struggle and in their strike, support the strike as they demand better wages, benefits, etc. They definitely deserve it. They should not be worked like robots, or as I like to call them, slave bots, because they're humans. We're all humans. We're not supposed to work like that 16-hour days for absolutely nothing. I mean, this is totally insane. And Kellogg's is not the only corporation that made a ton of money over the pandemic so far. A lot of corporations have. And some people blame that on inflation, but I think that inflation is getting blamed a lot for a lot of different things that it's not really responsible for, and we'll get into that a little bit more with Joe Manchin. But I think the reality really speaks to it here that the problem is corporate greed, and they're very greedy. They're forcing the workers to work overtime, running their businesses 24/7, not giving them a break, all in the name of maximizing profit. And so long as workers are not being protected by the government, the corporations are going to keep doing whatever they want. They have all the freedom to do that. And I think that's really a result of the deregulation of the labor market in the 80s. And I know, libertarians like to talk a lot about liberty, but I really ask, liberty for whom? So liberty for the corporations or liberty for the workers, right? Here, this deregulation led to liberty for the corporations to do whatever they wanted with people, with workers. It didn't give workers freedom. What was your freedom to choose between starvation or having a job? And that's the situation we're in right now. And as we wait for Carlos to come back, I think this is something that should make us all really angry and also really help us contextualize what's happening and contextualize the media narratives over these robberies at these stores, these fancy stores, because the reality is that every day people are being stolen from, whether it's their homes are being taken away from them by banks, or the banks are charging you incredible late fees, especially over the pandemic. There was a hearing over that. Of course, Congress did absolutely nothing. banks made like billions of dollars or something like that in late fees, different kinds of fees, overdraft fees, because it was a difficult time, and no, that was theft. I mean, why should banks be charging these ridiculous fees? Wage theft, obviously, we've addressed that. I mean, these the police departments with these seizures that they do, highway robbery by the police departments, the theft of life, and when cops kill people on the street for no reason at all, that's a life that was stolen and will never be returned. So workers, people in general, the 99% are being stolen from every day, and we don't talk about that. We don't talk about these issues at all. We only talk about it when Louis Vuitton loses some overpriced bags that were made in sweatshops overseas, and those people were stolen from too. And we don't talk about that. And we don't talk about how this like overconsumption because of these giant clothing companies and whatever purse companies, right? They mass produce every day a new item, new style. All that stuff ends up in the trash, and it's really bad for the environment. So these are all things that we really should be talking about as a society, and we really have to put this into perspective of what's going on. And Carlos, are you okay over there? Because I think we should probably talk about Joe Manchin. If you're there, I don't know what happened to Carlos, but while Carlos is away, I want to get on to the issue of Joe. Oh, there you are, Carlos. You're back.
Yeah, no, I'm having problem here, some technical problems.
Okay, no problem.
Trying to get them fixed. I do apologize, but I'm listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, correctly. So we do need to talk about Manchin, Senator Manchin.
Yes.
And Republican Manchin.
Yeah, Republican Manchin, who just wears, who caucuses, I guess, claims to be a Democrat, but I think he is a Republican through and through, as he always has been.
Recently was saying that he hopes that Manchin just switches parties.
He should. What's the point at this point?
About it, because he's already a Republican.
Yeah, he completely destroyed any hopes of passing this legislation, Build Back Better. I mean, he just completely destroyed the entire Democratic platform, whether he was given the okay to do it or not. I don't know. You could be a little conspiratorial about it, but either way, I mean, he trashed it. And I have a clip of Joe Manchin. But before we get to that, I wanted to remind our viewers that they may know that our beloved Bernie Sanders Brigade page is still unavailable. So we would really like it if you followed us at Inside Out News at YouTube. So that's INSIGHTOUTNEWS. You can see it right below here in the lower third. Oh, right there. Please follow us there, because we're less likely to lose a page on YouTube right now than on Facebook. Things are a little crazy there. So please follow us, turn on notification, and we do this every week. So all of our episodes are there, and we really want to rebuild our audience that we lost when our page was taken down. So just a reminder. But Carlos, let me find this clip from Joe Manchin. I'll just get this set up here, because it's just awful. This guy is a creep. Joe Manchin, the squad. Okay, here we go. I'll pop that up. All right, looks good. There it is. Okay.
Now, Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday. Good to be with you, Brett.
Senator, you're at the center of this negotiation with the president over his social spending and tax bill, the Build Back Better bill that is not coming up in the Senate before the new year, in part largely because of your reservations. Without you, the leadership doesn't have the votes it needs. So today, right now, what's the state of play?
Well, Brett, this is a mammoth piece of legislation, and I had my reservations from the beginning when I heard about it 5.5 months ago, and I've been working diligently every day and every minute of every day. I've been working on this, meeting with, whether it be the President Biden, whether it be Majority Leader Schumer and his staff, whether it would be with Nancy Pelosi, all of my colleagues, from all different spectrums of the political spectrum, if you will, from the right to the left. I've done everything humanly possible. And my concerns I had, and I still have these concerns, and where I'm at right now, the inflation that I was concerned about, it's not transitory, it's real.
All right, I want to stop him there because I really want to address this thing about inflation. Now, inflation is bad. It is bad, but the inflation has nothing to do with Build Back Better. If anything, if you fund production, as some of the things in this legislation might do, might actually help in the long term with inflation. The inflation is already built in. There's a lot of issues related to it. It has to do with the way we did quantitative easing during the pandemic, has to do with supply chain issues, has to do with corporations. Instead of the free money that they got, putting it into building up their productive resources, they just decided, you know what? We're just going to raise prices. It's a lot easier to do that. So it's a complicated thing. But in the end, yeah, absolutely. I've said this before. Inflation is not good for working class people, especially if you're not getting a living wage adjustment. So yeah, it's bad. And people, even with the raises that they've gotten, has not kept up with inflation. So you are losing out. So absolutely, inflation is bad. But oh my gosh, you're really willing to do that. You're really willing to blame it on helping people, because here, Carlos, here's what this legislation would have actually done if they could have passed it. That was going to be $3,600 for parents, universal pre-K, Medicare hearing benefits, 4 weeks of paid leave, affordable housing, prescription price controls, stuff related to climate change, green energy credits, childcare, and as a result, there's not going to be Pell Grant increases, no federal college retention and completion grants, no increased money for HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions, no aid eligibility for DACA recipients, no PSLF for active duty military. All of this in the name of quote-unquote transitory inflation not being transitory. It's nuts. Yeah, inflation is a problem, but throwing everything out over that is insane. It's absolutely insane, because people need this and they were gonna pay for it by raising taxes. Raising taxes has nothing to do with inflation. We need to raise taxes on the very rich because they don't pay taxes. They use the stock market to keep their wealth. And the central bank, the Federal Reserve, props up the stock market. They buy back bonds, they buy back corporate bonds, they prop up these zombie corporations. That's what's causing inflation, if anything. That is much more likely to be causing inflation than this piece of legislation. And so for Joe Manchin to use inflation as a reason to deny Americans the basic necessities is a crime against humanity and a distortion of the reality. And Joe Manchin is incredibly evil. And I don't know, how much of the situation in the Democratic Party is just being allowed to happen. Sirota, oh my gosh, Sirota, he was from the Bernie Sanders campaign, and he's David Sirota. Oh gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. David Sirota, has made some very good points about the Democrats just sort of buckling on this, falling back on the parliamentarian, which is somebody we had barely even heard about prior to this new round, prior to the Biden administration coming into power. So, I don't know, how much of it is really Joe Manchin? How much of it is just the Biden administration and the Democratic leadership just being like, and we tried a little, right? Isn't that good enough? We elected Kamala Harris. She's the VP. Isn't that good? Isn't that what you guys wanted? Well, why do you want this? Why do you want dental and vision in your Medicare? I don't understand.
Kamala Harris basically was a guest at one of the comedy shows.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot his name. I'm sorry for that. But the guest pretty much asked her a question, about.
It was Charlemagne, I think.
Yes, that was him. And pretty much put her in the spot.
The God. Mm-hmm.
He's saying that Manchin is acting more president than Biden.
Yeah, he asked her who's the president, and apparently Simone Sanders. No, we don't like her on the Bernie Sanders side, but she apparently was ready to throw out the interview, interrupted it, wasn't going to let Harris respond. And this was all live, all because he asked her, well, who's the president, Manchin or Biden? And she got really angry when she finally did. But he had every right to ask.
But that's the kind of questions that I've been asking myself, not just recently because I heard this interview, is because that was the question that I started asking myself when I started seeing the kind of power that Manchin has. Any bill that is passed, we should not call it the Biden bill. It should be called the Manchin bill because it's being shaped after him. It's exactly what he wants, nothing less, nothing more. Anything that is passed is a Manchin bill. So he's acting more president than the president. He's got more power than the president. Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, also with the civil rights legislation, he rewrote it. I mean, why are you going to trust an ex-Republican from West Virginia to rewrite the civil rights bill? A white guy, for one thing. Not even a black person, not a person of African descent, whatever. He's the one writing it. I mean, that's a joke. And anyway, they're still not passing civil rights. They're not passing the civil rights legislation, or I'm sorry, voting rights legislation. What are they doing? And not only that, they're reversing, these pandemic safety nets. Because the administration sees the priority to appear normal, that everything is back to normal. We've got to look like everything is a-okay. The pandemic is totally fine. It's just crazy. And what's her name? The press secretary. She's not even worth. Can't even say her name. I don't remember. But she was asked about the student loan debt and the fact that Biden promised that he was going to cancel at least $10,000 and that he could do an executive order. And when they asked the Department of Education and they got a response, but they're not saying what the response was and they're not acting on it. And they asked and she was like, well, let's let Congress do it. Jen Psaki, that's her name, Jen Psaki. And then they were like, well, I think this is a bad thing that you're reneging on this in the pandemic. Well, the most important thing is just to get back to normal, and paying back those student loan debts is a way of bringing us back to normal. So in the meantime, we've got, a new variant, and this recession has only recovered for the wealthy people who have stocks, and for everybody else, it's not much of a recovery. So it's I don't really know what the administration is thinking. I think I can't imagine that they actually really want to lose the midterms, but they're so disconnected from everyone outside of their bubble.
They have failed to set themselves aside from the Republicans. When Biden came into office, we were hoping that he will, step up, with bold policies We haven't been able to address the immigration policies. He's actually picked up some of the same policies and piggybacked on some of the same policies that Trump had. You know, there's still a crisis at the border, just nobody's talking about it. You know, we still have the housing crisis, bigger than ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not going to blame Biden for it, but it's a continuation of the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, we have issue after issue that is pretty much the same. They have put Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids. Trump, we know that he's garbage. Trump is garbage. Trump has nothing to offer. But right now we're looking at Democratic Party, our Democratic leaders, is what do you guys have to offer? You haven't made real change. You roll back some of the things that Donald Trump did. Yes, you did. We'll give you credit for that. But you have not set aside a policy, an agenda that we can say, wow, this is good. This is powerful. You know, I know that they're looking at the numbers, at the economy, and yes, people are doing, you know, a little better than a year ago, but it's not because of some agenda or some policies that they have put in place. It's because people are working. They're out there working. The difference now is that people are not, they're being more selective in their work. And you know, so we have all these things. We still don't have a clear path that we can say, wow, we have a great leader.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yes, he's not nasty like Trump is. Yes, he's not this bully that we see. But look, the fact of the matter is that just last week they passed the defense bill. $768 billion. No problem. Nobody asked a question. Actually, they say we're going to give $25 billion on top of what you ask.
It's ridiculous.
Where's the money going to come from? How are we going to pay for it?
Yeah, well,
questions were asked, Margaret.
Yeah, well, I mean, what they don't tell you is that all of that deficit spending is being paid for by anybody who holds our treasury bonds. It's called monetary imperialism. I recommend anybody look up Michael Hudson. He's a wonderful progressive economist who's written a lot about this. And he's got a book, and he actually just has a new edition out called Super Imperialism. It's 3rd edition. And I really recommend everybody read it or at least listen to him talk about it, because he's been making the media rounds lately, and find out really how our economy works, how we fund our military, because it's not a conspiracy. And the reality is that Michael Hudson was the first person to realize how to do this. And when he wrote Super Imperialism, it came out like early 70s. I think he wrote in the late 60s. And this was when the United States came off of the gold standard and Bretton Woods ended. And he realized, oh, wow, so, you know, we have all these dollars overseas. Now it's not backed by gold. So what are they going to do? They have nowhere to put it. So they started buying up treasury bonds. And so they realized, wow, you know, this is a great way to fund the deficit, and you can fund your imperialism over it. And so he wrote this book, and he thought that actually socialists and the left would pick it up and they would think like, oh yeah, we got to de-dollarize. But that didn't happen. The government actually picked it up, or like the CIA or something. And basically it inadvertently became like a blueprint for how to do this. And so this is how they've been funding our military forays in the world and our imperialism. And it's really, really something that people need to understand. And so foreign countries buy up our bonds, our treasuries, and it funds our deficit because they bought them, right? And these mature over time. I said, whatever, they're very low interest rate. They're great. If you raise inflation on the dollar, well, that's even better, because since you issued the debt, you can kind of give yourself a debt jubilee. And so that's what the government is, I think, doing in some ways right now, because we have a massive deficit. But by the same token, it's like, well, if we're willing to spend debt, all of that debt to blow up people, why can't we get a little bit of that here? Why can't we spend it on domestic things like health insurance or education? Or why can't we just have the Federal Reserve buy up all of the student debt and all of the medical debt and just put it on their balance sheets? I don't know. Something you think about, but that's really what happens. That's how it works. So they don't tell you that, and then you have Joe Manchin going out, transitory inflation. I mean, of course, yeah. Like I said, it's bad because talking about people now being choosy and fast care. These fast food businesses, the service sector. We have seen them raise their prices or their wages to like $15 an hour. Sounds great. Of course, how long have we been asking for $15 an hour? For like the last 5 years or longer. And that was before this inflation hit. So if $15 was barely enough when we were asking for it 5 years ago, without this rising inflation, now we get $15 per hour minimum wage. With the rising inflation, is it enough? Like, it's still not enough. So there's there's a lot of things missing from this discussion that we really have to understand when we talk about our deficit and the funding of the military budget and the willingness of Congress to fund it sight unseen, except for Bernie Sanders and the occasional libertarian that's on the Republican side who vote no on these budgets. But they have no problem. They'll clear their schedule to make sure the military gets everything it needs. And I have to say, libertarians, they talk about, auditing the Federal Reserve. Well, I say we should audit the Department of Defense, because the last time they tried to audit it, it was an absolute mess. They regularly misplace the money that they get, mysteriously. I think it's not a coincidence that some of it goes unchecked, not kept, the record keeping is bad on purpose, I think.
Right.
So yeah, Congress has its priorities set, with the military being important, dollar hegemony being important, and our domestic stuff being not important. So what do we do about it? There's something that we have to do about this. We can't really expect these representatives to do the right thing anymore, I think, unless we elect more people like the Squad and Bernie Sanders. But the rest of them.
And look at, we're gonna keep pushing forward. We have a new year coming up. We're gonna be at the Rose Parade. We're gonna be posting information on how you can get involved. The world cannot change. That's a theme for the Rose Parade. We hope you could join us and march.
The world cannot wait.
The world cannot wait.
Yeah.
And you can visit the People's Rose Parade page and on Facebook, and you will find information there. And we're going to be putting more information. We've been very busy here on the ground working on different projects, but we hope that, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to put a lot more information, and you can join us and come and march with us at the Rose Parade. Our time really is up. It's 11 o'clock, a little bit past 11 o'clock. We are so glad to be here, Margaret. Thank you for always being there as well. And I know you're coming down for the holidays here.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, I'll be there. I will be there. I'm flying out on Friday. But I wanted to just advertise something. Where did it go? That the Debt Collective is having a march, a protest on January 18th of next year in Washington, D.C. They're going to be protesting the fact that Congress and Joe Biden have gone back on their word about canceling student debt. So please, if you can make it to Washington, D.C. on January 18th, please be there for this really, really important protest.
All right, our time is up. My battery is about to die.
Yeah, we gotta let you go.
I have issues with my battery. It's not charging, but we're gonna get that going for our next Sunday. Make sure that we're that I'm up and running in a proper way. But it's been great being here with everybody. Stay strong. We like to dedicate this broadcast again right now to all of our volunteers that time and time again do so much on the ground. And, they just elevate our communities, elevate, the different work that is being done throughout different organizations. Without the power of volunteers, we will not be able to do the work that needs to be done. So thank you, volunteers, once again. Today we honor you, we celebrate you, and we love you. We appreciate all your work that you do.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. You've been watching Stand Up, Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. I'm Margot Pies. This is Carla Maruquin, and we've been your hosts today and forevermore. So we'll see you next week. Have an absolutely wonderful Christmas. If you celebrated, happy Kwanzaa, etc. And we will see you then. Take care, everybody. Have a really great holiday. And please get vaccinated if you haven't yet and wear a mask.